Hello my fellow degenerates, my name is Billy and today we're going to be taking a look at a new game from Vinovella Games, Taboo University. Vinovella has developed a small AVN you may have heard of before. It's called F Locator, F standing for the word that YouTube considers a no-no, despite me saying this channel isn't for anyone under the age of 18, because apparently it's my responsibility to make sure someone else's kids don't stumble upon an adult-orientated channel. Parenting folks. Anyway, Taboo University is available on Steam, Patreon and Itch. It's a harem college-based visual novel, but storyline-wise it goes in a different direction compared to the usual, the likes of being a dick and college king, but more on that in the story section. However, before we get there, if you enjoy AVNs and you want to see more content in regards to them, make sure you subscribe to see more from the AVN channel, and let me know if you've played this one in the comment. Also, I did get this game for free for review purposes. It was meant to be out a few weeks ago, but life, and I will make sure that this doesn't affect the review going forward, so despite getting it for free for a review, you will still get my honest opinion. So, how does Taboo University differ from the average college-based AVN? It all lies in the story. Rather than being your typical college kid trying to make his way through university, this time we are actually posing as a college kid trying to make our way through university. Because instead, we are a police detective, relatively new out of the academy, who has set out to investigate the disappearance of 3 young girls attending said college. At first I thought this was a great idea. You could add so many investigation-esque mechanics, but unfortunately it's lacking on that department, but more on that later. For now, let's discuss how the story actually goes. There are 3 groups that you need to investigate. The first is the Winners Club, the rich kids of the school that is connected to the volleyball team. However, where any skilled player can join the volleyball team, not everybody gets to join the Winners Club. That's like the frat house that is controlled by this group. This is reserved for the rich and the powerful, or at least the kids living off their rich parents' dime. And the next group, this one's called the Syndicate, a type of underground fight club. These are obviously involved in criminal activities, and one had to prove themselves to the group in order to join. The weird thing about this group is that as a cop you have no idea about them, as well as other gangs within the area. You're currently investigating a cold case, meaning that this has been investigated before and no one knew one of these girls was connected to a criminal gang. And to top it off, the entire police force has no information on these local gangs apparently. I found this hard to believe, and if this is the level of work the local police do, there's no wonder these girls haven't been found yet. The final group is a self-help group, or at least that's how they portray themselves. They're a sex cult. At first glance I thought maybe these won't be so bad, just a group of people trying to be happy, and yeah, turns out they're into some kind of up shit. They quickly became my personal #1 suspects. And there is more to these groups, however I can't go into much detail about the groups or the investigation without dropping some big spoilers. So for that information, you'll have to just check the game out yourself. But overall, I did find the story interesting and engaging. It does have its faults, like how little knowledge the police have of the groups and the university, and the fact that they allow a green cop to go deep undercover, and also the fact that the character can get deep into these super secret groups with relative ease. But I was still having a good time playing. I wanted to find out more about these groups. They're interesting and pretty fucked up, but I like it. And I wanted to discover the truth about the girls, and if my hunches about who'd done it was right, like a big game of Cluedo. Not only this, it was actually nice to have a college-based game with a bit of a twist to it. It's great to see developers take what is probably the most popular genre in AVNs and put a different spin on it for us. It's a refreshing change. Okay, so the characters. This is going to be hard. I can't go over them all because there are so goddamn many. But this isn't a negative thing. Sometimes when AVNs do have so many characters, they focus so little on them that almost all of them seem irrelevant and don't need to be there. But with Taboo University, each character, even the ones with very little screen time, at least adds to the investigation. It gives a player a little more to think about regarding the big game of Cluedo that we are playing. So instead of talking about them all, I'll just speak about what I'll consider like the main 2 from each of the 3 investigation routes, and a few of the from the MC's personal life. Speaking of which, let's start with the MC. He's a cop who has not long passed the academy. His name is Matthew, but we can choose his undercover name. He's an handsome young man who's a bit too perfect for my liking. Everything he does he seems to be pretty good at. Not many flaws, which leaves little room for development in that regard. However, despite the investigation, he does start to grow attached to those around him, and you can see him becoming a bit more difficult for him to do what he needs to do to get answers, and also the pressure of the investigation on him as well. So he does what's required, but it does play hard on him for a short time. and I emphasize a short time because it doesn't seem to have a significant effect. I would like to have seen him further spiraling depending on the choices we made and the further we went into the game, but alas, he is fine in the end. But again, it's book 1, so maybe this sort of stuff will come in the future. The next we'll speak about is Phoebe. This is your trainer turned girlfriend from the police academy. She doesn't have much screen time, but she does affect the MC at least a little. She's apparently quite a bit older than the MC, but yeah, okay, she's older. During the investigation, she accepts that the MC may have to sleep with other women, but beyond this, the relationship had little effect on the game. No struggling between what he has to do and what he wants to do, and so on. No struggling again. Another character from the MC's life is Josie. She knew the MC from high school and knows his real name. Due to this, we have to go a little bit more into the MC's pretend backstory and why he has changed his name. She actually has nothing to do with the investigation as far as we're aware. She just becomes a friend to the MC during his time at the university. She's your typical sweet innocent girl, the type of girl that you take home to your mother. I wish she had a bit more screen time, but that would take away from the investigation. And now we'll get into the 3 groups. The first we'll speak about is a winners club. Now, due to the length of the game and a little time I've had lately, I didn't get a chance to fully look into the winners club. Due to the route I took, this would require me to do a second playthrough and choose this path. I did do a quick scan through of it, but not in as much detail as the other groups. So what I say now, take it with a grain of salt. Well, the first girl I would like to consider the main girl from this group is Sylvia. She's actually the first person that greets you when you get into the college and is your in for the winners club. She seems sweet and kind, but a little bit naive. She's a little more trusting than the others in the group and quickly takes a liking to you. She seems to trust people more easily than the rest. Anyway, after the winners club we have the syndicate. The main girl from the syndicate is Zemfira. When we first meet her, she acts like the tough girl, ruthless and badass. She keeps this up in front of her friends and the syndicate. The queen bitch, so to speak, but when we finally get her alone, when we can see that she's not actually as tough as she acts, she's actually kind and caring and only wants to help protect a friend. Despite the front she knows she has to put on for the group, she seems innocent, but then again, she is in a gang. How innocent can she be? The next girl in the syndicate is Flower. She's at the polar opposite of Zemfira. On the surface, she seems to be the sweet, innocent hippie girl, a free spirit who could do no wrong. But when you get to know her, she's actually a bit of a freak. It turns out she's a bit deeper in this than we expected in certain aspects of the syndicate's work. Well then, the final group is a cult, but the first girl from the cult would be Delphia, kinky pagan girl. She basically believes herself as a direct descendant of some ancient Greek goddess. Needless to say, she's a little bit on the crazy side. Within the cult, she's what you called a guide, a higher up member who helps the new members. She's confident, outgoing, unapologetic about her beliefs and sexuality, and seemingly a bit of a trouble causer. Basically, she's the poster boy, or girl in this case, for the cult. And the next girl in the cult would be Nia. She's a lower ranking member and becomes your self-help partner during the discovery of blah 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 and the cult crap. She's just like others in the cult, is outgoing, however she's not so confident. She kind of flip-flops between strong and independent woman and this naive girl who needs somebody to lead her. And it all depends on who or where she is, so it's understandable and makes sense to her character. And there are many other characters and love interests in the game, but these are the ones that we explored the most, or at least I did. They're fairly well written and suit their role in the story. The characters do have layers even though they don't go so deep, but at this point, other than learning about and understanding them, we don't see a huge amount of character development. But I can understand this with the story since it's a multiple book story. I hope we see more in the future, but it wouldn't really make too much sense if we had them make huge progress in each book, because by the end of the whole story the characters would be unrecognizable. A slow and steady pace makes sense in the context, and so far it's doing a good job of it. But I would like to mention that these characters, depending on which route you take, very rarely actually interact with the people from the other group. They're all in the same classes and they're all in the same university, but they are defined within these groups for the most part. Every now and then we get a bit of cross factioning, but other than that they seem to be very strict in their little group. You don't run into Syndicate whilst dealing with the cult, you don't run into the cult whilst dealing with the Winners Club. Most of it's just all confined to that little group. And the final thing I wish to mention is that this is a harem game, so far there have been no repercussions for pursuing all available women. Now there was a part, it looked like one of the girls was going to get jealous and I was excited, I was like, ooh yeah, bring it on the drama. But unfortunately no, we just moved on and nobody cared. I wanted to be the root cause of tearing friend groups apart, but alas, we remain dramaless. Well, dramaless if you forget about the cult, the gang, the shady rich kids and 3 missing girls. Yeah, definitely drama free. Taboo University is a game that is based on a police investigation, and this brings with it a potential for some great mechanics, but does it act upon this potential? Honestly, I'd have to say no. You do have the standard dialogue choices that can affect the story, and the ability to choose which investigation route you want to go down, but I was hoping for some investigation mechanic. I want to have to try to piece these stories together and get all the information I need and put it together myself. But unfortunately, other than selecting a path to investigate, you just watch the investigation play out. There is a point system that affects the 3 groups, but unless I miss something, I'm not entirely sure how this works. I know at one point the game will put off certain investigation routes, but I'm not sure if this is dependent on the dialogue you've selected, or whether it's just where you're only able to investigate 2 of the 3 groups and it scraps the 3rd, eventually just narrowing it down to that one path. But my main concern with the mechanics lacking the investigation aspect and essentially leading you down the same route is that you can be wrong. I'm worried that the game will do one of 2 things. Either have multiple endings, whether no matter what route you select, you're always going to be right. If you blame the cult, it's always going to be the cult. If you blame the syndicate, it will be them, and so on. Or have a single ending where no matter what choice or route you took, it will always lead you down the path to the same suspect. At this point, we have little to go on in regards to who did it, but I really hope the game at some point where you have to choose who to blame and you can be wrong. I want a predefined villain. I want the culprit to be the same person despite what route you went down, and you have to then gather the information and pick the correct villain, pick the correct culprit. This way we can blame the wrong person. So yeah, it's similar to the route I was mentioning where you're always going to be funneled down the same route no matter what information and what route you took. But this way we get to choose before the ending, this person did it, and we can be right or wrong. Since you could target the wrong person, the missing girls are never found and the innocent person takes the fall. Or you could be the hero, get it right, save the girls and arrest the real bad guy. But I guess we'll have to wait and see for future books of how this turns out. I really like the visuals in Taboo University. It's going for the more realistic approach. Yes, it's not the best I've seen, but the character models look good, although I must admit sometimes they can look a little bit weird. But for the most part, they look good and consistent. And the environments look good as well. Well furnished and full. However, sometimes the visuals doesn't actually match what is written. For example, you ask for a whiskey and coke at the bar and she brings you just a glass of whiskey. Not a big deal, but this kind of stuff just bugs me. We do get a few animations, but for the most part it's just panning animations, nothing too special. I would like to say that it adds emphasis to certain scenes, but sometimes they're just used for the sake of it and they don't feel necessary. At these times they don't take anything away from the game, but not really adding to it either. But I will say in regards to the animations though, they are some good liquid physics in this game. Water looks great. A game with super hot girls, and I appreciate the water the most. I can't really show you some of these physics because they show up in some adult orientated scenes, but they are there. And finally, the UI is clear and easy to read. And there's also an investigation board. This shows all the people you've met and some information about them. Now this isn't unique to this game. A lot of AVNs have a character glossary, but I like the way this one's presented to add to that investigation aspect of the game. It's pretty cool. And also, you do see the board pop up in one of the scenes later on, so it's actually a real thing in the game and not just a menu for you. The music in the game is decent and there are some good variety. It's suitable for the game, however I did find it overpowered a lot of the other sound effects at some time, so I had to turn it down. One thing I will say about the music though is that it could have been used to add more impact to the scenes, but mostly it's just filler just to cover that silence in the background. And speaking of them other sound effects, this game has plenty, mainly in the form of characters speaking. Every time a new line of dialogue appears, the characters say something. This may be just a yes or a no or a brr or something along them lines, but it does help in knowing what character is speaking, and it can also help the reader know the way the character's speaking and the way they're portraying what they're saying. Ah! Ah! Hey! But however, it does sometimes have the opposite effect as well. Someone may be interacting in a joking, humorous way, but the audio makes them sound really pissed off and abrupt. Either way, adding a dialogue sound clip to every line would have taken a lot of time and work, so I can appreciate it for what it is, and I do like it. Although sometimes it did feel like I was in the middle of a conversation from The Sims. Now on to the main thing that makes adult visual novels, well, adult, the lewd. The lewd scenes are kind of a mix for me. There are some great aspects and some not so great. Nothing really bad though. First thing is the variety. There are a decent amount of partners one can pursue, and mostly with the standard array of activities you can partake in, if you get what I mean. The scene animations are not too bad. Mostly they're all the same short animations set on a loop with different camera angles. You'll have a small variety of animations in the scene, but don't expect them to be long and extensive. Not only this, but a lot of the time, again, the text doesn't match the action. According to the text, you'll be railing a girl into next week, and then you look at the actual animation on screen and you're taking it nice and slow and steady. Which one is it? The lewd scenes, however, really shine in the audio department. Each one of them is fully voiced. Well, not the dialogue, but they have sound effects, you know, the moaning and thing. Yeah, it's great. I always mention this, and it just makes the scene feel more complete. And the sound effects may switch from like action to action or camera angle to camera angle, depending on the actions that you are doing. And it does this seamlessly. It doesn't just cut off abruptly. The audio will just flow together nicely. So overall, I would say the scenes, despite the lack of variety during the scenes, are still great. It's that time of the video again where I either piss everyone off or maybe make one or two people happy at least. The best girl. Now, this was actually a really difficult one. There are plenty of characters to choose from in this game and they're all pretty decent. But as always, there can only be one, and this one has to be, drumroll please, drumroll, today, there we go, okay. This one has to be Delphine. You're the best damn girl in the whole wide world. Baby, you're the best in the whole wide world. Yeah, that's right, the crazy one from the cult. What can I say? I got a thing for crazy. In all honesty though, she is my favourite, not because she's crazy, but simply because she's unapologetically crazy. She has no issues with being herself. She is who she is, and fuck what others think. In this game, there are a lot of other characters who second guess themselves, but Delphine doesn't. She is who she is, there's no secret about it. What you see is what you get, plus she's a freak. So, would I recommend this game? Yes, actually I would. I enjoyed it. Granted, I would have preferred it if there were more investigation mechanics, but the lack of them doesn't make the game worse than other AVNs, just the additions would have been a great improvement and pushed it way beyond the other AVNs. And there are plenty of content, and this is only book 1, so there's much more to come, and maybe we'll see more mechanics and like investigation things in the future as well. But this does mean, however, that if you are wanting a complete story and don't think you can wait to discover the truth about the Lost Girls, then you'd probably best to wait for the series to finish. But either way, I'd definitely give this game a play, whether you're waiting for the end or you're starting up now. I wouldn't want to miss it. It's pretty good, I enjoyed it.